How's it going, everyone? Happy start of the week. For many of you may not pay attention to days and times anymore. I was actually listening to Moon Gang and Charlie and DCC, and they were talking about how if you're in the system of like the grind system, you're like, oh, you really know what day it is every day. You're in the how did Charlie say it? I got him on coming on Wednesday if everything goes well as well. That'll be a good stream. But he was talking about if you're on the Gregorian calendar system. He explained it like that. I was like, man, that's actually an interesting way to put it. Because yeah, when you're not working or you're retired or otherwise you don't really pay attention to time a lot. And so that was cool. Anyways, happy Monday. Got me thinking about that for a moment. We got a great stream today. Always excited to do these streams. Hopefully SJ will be able to join us as well. If not, it's okay because she's doing the good work over the PulseChain tour. But we got Whitney Magic and Coexist Steven. How's it going?
Good evening. Good morning.
Hello.
Welcome back, both of you. I mean, we had Steven on the other day for the community stream, and Whitney's got her own channel now. Yes. What's new with Whitney? And is it Queen of Millions? Is that the channel / website?
Yeah. It's new. That's my community. It's for the women in crypto. We have our weekly calls. Have that right after this as well. But it's just been teaching 101s, all the stuff, getting people bit with that crypto passion bug.
Awesome. Yeah, I saw you started the channel. You did the stream with coffee, and I'm like, when me, Dev? When can I come on with the show?
Ooh, yes, we
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Yeah. 2 more weeks. I like it. Yeah, of course. Just let me know whenever.
Yeah.
I've been working on some dev stuff recently though, so I'm gonna probably be streaming. I say this, but maybe nothing changes. I may be streaming a little bit less. However, of course, for coming on other people's show is a lot easier for me, because I don't have to prep usually, or I don't have to, do all the work and coordination and stuff like that. So anyways, I love coming on as a guest too. So anytime, no pressure, but if you're interested, I'll be.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. And then, so the first part, we got a few things to cover. Mindfulness, meditation. I'm fasting right now, going on 20 hours. We're talking about in the green room after I worked out the technical difficulties. Sorry for the late start, everyone. But I want to get into that a little bit later because we got Whitney for another half hour. I want to make sure we're able to get into some of the meditation stuff, because last time we talked, I think it was me, you, and Brent. We were talking about, we did a similar stream like this, and I was talking about how I really like the Sam Harris app, and just for guided meditation and just different mindfulness chapters and just a bunch of different collections of conversations I really like. I think you maybe had a recommendation there too, but do you like the guided? Do you like the self solo one? What's your preferred methods?
Personally, I love sound, so more of like sound baths, crystal bowls, hand pans. That's stuff that I really love. There's certain guided meditation. There are certain people that I really vibe with, but for me, it's more of that. And then I think I recommended Abraham Hicks is like one of my favorites, but she's not a meditation. She's more of mindful thought, changing energy frequency stuff. I've been living by her recently.
Awesome. Yeah. And just everyone out there listening to, I mean, we're going to have a conversation around some of this stuff, and some of you may be familiar or may not. And for me, I didn't start getting into it until maybe a year or two ago. Honestly, maybe might be a couple of years at this point. And just found just the whole process to be, before it was kind of like, meditation, like a lot of people do that. How do you have time to do it? How do you just sit there and, just do it for a while? I think that's one of the biggest things to overcome, just like getting into, I don't know, some people are like need to get into the mood or zone. But for me, I've found that it's more of just one of those things where if I make it part of my routine, or I just look at it as, I know Sam Harris talks about it a lot, like you can spend the rest of your day doing whatever you want, but these next 10 minutes, next 20 minutes, next whatever it is, practicing the awareness and all those parts too. But what do you all think is, why doesn't everyone meditate? That's the question I always ask. Like after I started getting into it, I was like, man, wouldn't the world just be a better place if everyone did this? Just if not selfishly for themselves, but obviously that could have a positive effect on entire society if everyone wasn't, was able to be aware and do all the things that it teaches you to be there healthy for everything.
Steven, want to take that away?
Yeah, definitely. So, first of all, the whole notion around time and people's perception about how much time they have, and that's something also myself. Like I So I run a meditation center, and even myself, like I'll guide, but sometimes I'm not even meditating. So I'll guide and I'll be doing other things. And I notice very clearly the days where I keep telling myself, I'm too busy to meditate, I've got to be doing this, I've got to be doing that. Very quickly after a few days, my mindset really starts to slip. So it's almost like if I don't just take that time, my mind just starts to get overly busy. So we fall into this trap of thinking I'm too busy to meditate, but it's that very thought that is the thing that is the problem. So when you actually just take that time, you're like, you get more time because your mind is more clear. So you become actually more focused and more efficient. And when I'm doing things, not with a busy mind, I'm actually much more, like I said, efficient. And I also relate it back to the gym. Like it's the same thing. It's like if if I don't go and exercise, I really feel it on my mind. I feel like something's missing. So just doing those basic things of taking care of what you eat, exercising daily, meditating daily, like I've personally been able to get those three things in alignment, and I have never been able to get them in alignment. I've always struggled with sleep or exercise or meditation. Now they're all in alignment and I'm firing on all cylinders. I feel like I'm the most efficient that I've ever been in my whole life. It's insane.
I have another question for you.
Mm.
When I feel like a common thought that a lot of question that people have in meditation too is like, should I be focusing on my thoughts? They're constantly coming up. What's your kind of response to that? Do you focus on them? Do you allow them to simmer away? What's your thoughts?
Yeah. So there's like two main categories of meditation. There's kind of like the one that you were alluding to, where you're kind of putting something into your mind, or you're feeling something, or allowing something, and then the other kind of meditation is letting go of what's in your mind. So I think they both serve their purposes, but I align myself more with the latter. So the meditation method that I do and teach is really specifically reflecting on what's in your mind and learning how to let it go, because what's in your mind is like the programming for what's actually coming out of your mind. So if you're having negative thoughts, it's not about, because I tried this and my mind was way too negative. It's not about like pretending that it wasn't there or trying to be positive, or it didn't work for me, that specific kind of method, because it was too much negativity that was the roots of my mind. So I really had to go in and dig it out, and then the positivity just naturally flows out of my mind. So I'm of the mindset of like, just let it go, not analyze it, not judge it, not, oh, I shouldn't be thinking like this, but just it's there and just let it go. And you'll get to the root of actually who you are. Those thoughts are not you. So that's my mindset around that.
Do you find it is like being stubborn? You have to be stubborn. Like you could be stubborn around like holding on to those old thoughts, or is it easy for you, or do you build that muscle of like unattachment, just letting it flow?
It's a bit of both, right? So the more that you meditate, the easier it is to like detach from those thoughts. But if you really kind of fall out of that practice, you really fall into that. So depression particularly is something that I've struggled with a lot in my life, and really like, oh, I'm so worthless, I'm so useless, and really believing that thought. And that's the exact thought that keeps you trapped there. That's what keeps me in that state of mind for like weeks, and eating junk food and like, oh, I'm useless, I'm not going to achieve anything, so I'm not going to work. That's the exact thought that's holding me back. So just learning how to let it go and acknowledge, hey, it's there. Don't fight it, because that was what I did a lot of too. I would really fight it, like, why am I thinking like this again? This is coming up again. But now it's just like, it's there, let it go. And as it clears away, I really get to, again, the source of who I am, which is not that depression, which is not those thoughts. So,
I just want to say too, you're making me think of a couple questions too. But before I get into that, I think the whole idea that the acceptance part, I think, is really meaningful too, and just the kind of, you kind of touched on it too, of like, it's there, whatever, either let it go, be aware, all these different concepts and stuff around that. And just, there's different things, different people deal with different kinds of anxiety and all that too. Like overthinking, like, oh, I'm going to solve all my problems. If I just think hard enough and get to it, I can just solve it if I just figure out the answer, type of thing. But a lot of this stuff is just kind of like, what, I guess you could go into, okay, why do I care about this? How does this affect me? Am I just trying to like solve all my problems? But I think the concept of like not trying to solve every problem, more of just being like, yeah, it's there, things happen, whatever, letting I think the concept of living in the moment too, of like, the past is just a thought. I think Robbie Kant talks about this some too. Past is just thought. The future is just a thought. All these things are just thoughts. Only thing you really have, and this is, I guess, Sam Harris, is like the present moment and that kind of thing. And just like, I don't know, I kind of feel like that helps with anxiety of like not worrying about the past, the future, not trying to plan for the future or redo the past, or, oh, I should have did this or that, or, oh, what if I don't do this, this is going to happen in the future, and whatever. It's like just the present moment just feels much more comfortable, much more relief when you're just, or at least when I'm like just living in the present moment. And it's just all those different things of and when we say anxiety too, it's like there's all kinds of different things people could be bothered about, or from time to time, and okay, we're going to deep dive into this and just not think about it because I'm going to be consumed with this project or that project and otherwise. But I think the one of the biggest things I got from meditation has just been this awareness of like, sometimes you're going to have positive things, sometimes it's going to go negative, sometimes whatever. Not trying to control everything, just be like, just okay, this happens, that happened, this happens. Most of the stuff is pretty menial anyways, even though at the moment it may feel like it means more to you.
I would love to get both of your perspective as well on the question that Whitney was asking. How do you deal with the thoughts, Whitney? What is it like for you? Do you acknowledge it? Do you let it go? Do you sit with it? How does that go with you, with your meditation?
I find sometimes when the thoughts are so, like the ones that are like really looping, the ones that are really intense, it's not typically best for me to bring it just to a meditation, because there's usually a really big emotional charge with it for me. So instead, that's where I lean on other tools like somatic work. So like somatic work being like of the body. So whether that's tapping, EFT, mixing it up to EFT, which is tapping on certain points to alleviate different emotions and evoke those, or shaking therapy, or just taking myself onto a walk or something that's different, just because I notice that the thoughts sometimes when they're so intense, my mind hasn't fully been wired and trained to just let go of it, but instead I need more movement to change the state.
I completely agree. And that's also part of the meditation that I do as well. It's not just about sitting down and closing your eyes and kind of letting go from your mind. Like that's part of it, but the movement is also part of it. It's like a whole, your body and your mind are just one thing. So your thoughts is actually the product of your body that you were born with, the habits that you inherited from your parents and ancestors. So just like we look like our parents, we also have their mind traits, and then the life that I've lived up until now. So with those habits that I have from my parents, I'm like this. The way that I see the world is based on those patterns of my parents. My brothers might be different. They might be more calm. They've got the genetic imprint from my mum. I've got more of the genetic imprint of my dad and my grandfather, who are very like aggressive, very angry, like very short-tempered. And that's how we see the world. And then that's what the things that go into my mind are. And then so as I'm living this life, all that anger is really stored in there, all that emotion. But like, yes, clearing it from your mind, but really like, moving your body as well, really moving your body. And as you're moving your body, really also learning how to clear your mind as you're moving your body and doing those kinds of things like dancing and just taking action and just moving. Like the meditation's not just about, that's one misconception I want to address. Meditation's not just about sitting with your eyes closed and just looking at your thoughts. Like there's more to it than that. It's really like a way of life, in my opinion.
Yeah, some of the practices too with the app. Again, I don't want to make this like a commercial for the waking up app for Sam Harris.
Get
really like the
app. Come on, Sam. Buy PulseChain.
I mean, do shout out to Sam. Shout out to Sam. He has done a lot of amazing work, and I really appreciate. And this is one of the most popular. But anyways, I think when you Stephen was saying that, it's not about closing your eyes, and you don't have to close your eyes. Like that's the thing too. With the app and with the experience and stuff too, there's different practices and exercise. And again, not just about meditation, but just this whole concept of, and there's so many different concepts to go into, but like the all connectedness thing. I kind of heard Stephen talk about that before too, and just the whole, yeah, I don't know, just the awareness, acceptance, all those concepts that I feel like I've listened to so many different, like hours and hours of different content, and people put it different ways, or just really talk about this one thing. It's just this, it's like so natural. It's hard to grasp because I think in the modern world, we're just not educated. Like we're not brought up like, oh yeah, you know, I guess some people are, you know, if you have family members or parents or otherwise that are in these sort of practices, but just generally, you know, 99% of people, they just don't know anything about it because they just never did it before. Maybe they think they've never needed it, or maybe they don't. Maybe people are fine without it too. But there's just so many different concepts that once I understood them, like, wow, this is like, it's kind of eye-opening to it's almost like a different world. It's like, you know, they talk about with the app, a new operating system for your mind type of thing. And I really think it is this, I don't know if an operating system, I'll say it can, I always talk about it in terms of tools, like give you, or at least give me some tools that, you know, if you don't have the tools, it's hard for you to navigate different, you know, circumstances and all that stuff too. So I think meditation, I treat as not only, it can be a lifestyle, it can be a mindset, but I really think of it as a tool to be like, yeah, you know, what is, you know, dealing with whatever you're dealing with, or just not, you know, being less angry, like whatever it is that you feel like it's you get tangled up in or hard to deal with, or you come across that in any such way. It's just like another tool to be like, oh yeah, I can do this. You know, I've, you know, autonomy over myself, you know, nature, all that stuff too. But real quick, just want to get a wild SJ in here. Better late than never. How's it going, SJ?
What's going on, everybody? How are you?
Hey, SJ.
Hello, great to hear you.
Yeah. I realized, Max, I had sent you a voice message and it didn't go through.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I
So
did not see that.
yeah, I was explaining the reason I'm late or almost
No
didn't
worries.
show is I was actually practicing mindfulness myself
Yeah.
and doing some self-care. I just got out of a sauna.
You were forgiven if you're meditating for too long, if that's what this was.
It's exactly what it is. I was meditating in the sauna. It was beautiful and wonderful and everything that I needed.
I love saunas. Like there's a I kind of want to like get access. I don't think there's any gyms around here that actually have one, but every time I have access to one, whether it's recreational or otherwise, I'm like, man, I really do like saunas and just that experience. So I'm not sure if that opens. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm saying I don't know if that opens up like a different. I know there's certain. Maybe this is a question for everyone too. Are there certain environments you can be in that kind of like make you more susceptible to, you know, having, you know, the first thing I think of is, oh, to meditate, I need like a quiet room. Honestly, I've been practicing meditating in a noisy place, or just like not. I've been trying to avoid making everything super quiet or super peaceful or whatever it is. I've been trying to be like, no matter what, like I can, you know, I want to hone that type of skill to make it more. But are there places or environments or otherwise that you all feel it makes more not effective, but you know what I'm saying, like more, you get able to get into it quicker or otherwise?
Nature for sure. Nature 100%.
Yeah.
But I find the benefit of the sauna really is that I can't have my phone. So it's like, and then it's confronting in the sense of the heat as well. So it just is like tap in, be with it, be in the moment. Big fan of the sauna for sure.
I'm actually probably the opposite, to be honest. I think it's everywhere. I love to do it everywhere, but nature is like, it's not that it's hard to do it in nature, but I find like a dedicated, like when everybody's in the same frequency. So when if I do it by myself in my room, I find that very difficult. But if I'm in a room with others and we're all doing it, I find it very easy. Your minds all kind of sync up with that energy and kind of feed off each other. So from that perspective, I find that easier than say like doing it in nature by myself.
That's lovely. I wish that was like, because I feel like that's practiced largely in a religious sense, right? In many religions, there's like, you know, many people will come and meditate together. In Austin, I don't know if they do this anymore, but years ago, there was a movement and it was called Ohm the Dome. And we would all gather at the Capitol underneath the dome in the Capitol and sit on the floor underneath the dome of the Capitol and say the, do Om mantras and sit there and meditate. And I mean, those moments when you realize that you're in a room full of people who are all vibrating at that frequency, not just mentally, but vibrationally with the sound, right? It's otherworldly. It's such an amazing experience. And I wish there was more of that. I wish more people came together more often to do that kind of meditation, or that was easier to find maybe outside of a religious context.
Got a funny question, also insightful though, by Fast Abdul. What if my preferred state is angry but motivated? That is funny. What is somebody said this the other day? I forget who I should quote, but it was like basically try to be, probably Sam Harris. I'm gonna say try to be try to stop thinking about whatever you're angry about and try to still be angry. It's like, it talks about, it's like, it's not possible. It's not possible to not be thinking but still be angry, because the thoughts, right, is creating the anger and like letting you hang on to it, or that's why you try to get over something and whatever, and you look at it again, you see some tweet or otherwise, you're like, oh, that's annoying, or that makes me angry, or whatever. And not that we get into like why that the techniques around making that happen or avoiding that too, but you see something and you're like, oh, am I dumb, or is that a bad idea, or whatever it is. And then but if you stop thinking about it, and if you're able to do something else, get your mind off of whatever, you don't feel angry anymore. You may feel you're racing hard, or you may feel the effects of just being more tired, or just the tension and stuff like that from it. But if you're not literally thinking about it, then the idea is it's impossible to be angry if you're not actually taking that in. But y'all have any tips for not being angry or avoiding such a thing?
I'm getting a little curious, where I'm like, okay, if it's a preferred state of anger, first, do you want to change it? Because obviously you need to want to change it first. And then I am kind of feeling where like I love getting really curious to be like, can I see all the ways that anger expresses in my life? And just being like, oh, there it is again, and kind of collecting all these data points so I can just see where I'm like, oh, that's that anger pattern that's showing up again. And so that's where everything begins with that awareness. Well, first willing to want to change, and then the awareness to be like, can I see all the ways it's expressing? So then I can actually choose a different pathway when I'm like, oh, like that anger showing up again, it's making me make this decision. Like, am I being irrational again? Yep. Oh, that's the anger. Okay. Can I love it a little bit more and then choose a different way? Like, what is that different way that I would like to be? That's kind of what I'm feeling around that. Interesting.
I definitely want to add to that. I mean, I know Fast Abdul's probably just taking the piss, but I want to add to it anyway. I struggled with that a lot, anger, and people would often say, like I said, with my dad and my grandfather. Like my grandfather, I love him to pieces, but he's such warm-hearted, good man. But he's a type of guy where, like, his concepts about certain things will just. So, for example, like we all might be at his house, and family have got him a present, and he'll lose his shit. He'll like, why did you get me a present? Why did you waste any money? And he's like going crazy, and it, like the whole energy of the room just changes, and everyone's just like, whoa. That's the type of like anger that he has. And that's the type of anger that I had. And I would have people that are just like, oh, just let it go. And I'm like, oh, thanks. Okay, it's that simple. I'll just let it go. And if it was that easy, I will just let it go. I don't want to stay in this state of anger. Like it would intoxicate me. It's even like making me fire up right now. It was never so easy for me to just like trick my mind into believing the anger wasn't there, because it just pulsated in every single cell of my body. And I was totally 100% thoroughly trapped by it. I could never just pivot my mind. So I actually had to first reflect on all those instances in my life where I had that anger in each and every one of my cells, and just go into it and learn to let it go and just wash it away. And through that process, when the anger does come up, now it's easy for me to just let it go. Now it's easy for me to just pivot out of it. But before, it was too strong. It had such toxic momentum that it was impossible to get out of. And I see that same core principle applies to any negative state of mind that you have, because people will really suffer from anxiety or overthinking. And it's easy for somebody who's not in that state, especially with stress and anxiety. People really look down on that, like, oh, just get over it. Oh, just whatever, change your job or whatever it is. But that person that's really in it, the momentum of that energy is not easy just to come out of. So yeah, that's my comment on that. Whether it's any condition, that's how I see the mind. It's just this robot. It gets programmed from the life, and it's just whatever it has in there is what's coming out. Just like a calculator can only calculate, the brain that's full of anger can only have angry thoughts.
I would say in a similar vein, like, and I think this is kind of a different point along the, sorry, I'm tired too, y'all, hence the self-care. But what I wanted to say to that is change, if you can, right? If you can't change your state of mind, try to change your environment, right? Change, if it's possible, go outside. I'm sure you might have already touched on this, but that to me, that's one of the biggest things is like, no matter what frame of mind it is that's negative that I'm in, right? If it's just anxiety, stress, worry, I realize, there's this moment where I think, okay, what can I do, right? If you can't change it, you can't, do anything about it. What can you do to take yourself maybe away from it or out of it? And more often than not, for me, that's just going for a walk, if that's at all humanly possible. Go for a walk, get outside if you can, look up at the sky, look at the grass, look at something else, or, try to flip that state into how can, again, this is kind of going into Scivive stuff, right? Like I love that Richard says this so often. It's how do you frame it positive? How do you take that, whatever it is that's negative, or that anger, and say, okay, what lesson can I learn from this? Or what's the gratefulness in this? How can I be thankful for this experience?
I was just going to bring up gratitude. I think that's, especially with anger, with disappointment, with, whatever it may be, like, just, it seems like just looking around and being like, well, things could be a lot worse. Well, I don't know. It's almost like, a lot of things people tell you, such as Steven mentioned too, is like, oh, just let it go, or it's not that important. Those concepts, like when you're in the moment, it's kind of like, it's, yeah, I wish it was that easy. Yeah. But it's the things that come up. I think it really is about changing the thought pattern, and where, if it's coming up a lot and stuff, I guess digging into it, and there's different, therapies and stuff like that. But it's more of, I don't know, there's like a list. If there was a list of things, you can Google anywhere and say, oh, here's a list of things to do to help with anxiety. Here's a list of things to do to stop being more angry. There's always these lists, and there's always something to each thing. But I think each thing that people are dealing with or otherwise is so personal that it's not even, it may not even make sense to other people if you tell them. And it may not even be something where this kind of advice of, okay, yeah, let it go. Cool. Well, maybe eventually I do let it go, but it wasn't because, I was just told enough times to let it go. It's not because I didn't understand that or want to do that. It's something that, whatever's behind it, whatever the root cause of bothering, had to get rid of, that, or change that, or accept that, and just be like, yeah, that's just something I'm worried about sometimes, or, oh yeah, that just, that sucks, or that happened, or, oh yeah, I'm worried about that from time to time. But just being, again, that's what always brings me back to the awareness that meditation brings. The awareness and acceptance. I feel like those are the two principles that have been super helpful. And then the gratitude of, like, literally, okay, if you really think, or if I really think, oh, this, it's not fair, it shouldn't be happening to me, or I wish this wouldn't happen, or I wish I could change it, again, trying to control or otherwise, then I think the gratitude, somehow I feel like it's almost ingrained sometimes, like playing a part of, wow, like actually when I look around, things, aren't as bad as they seem. Like maybe my emotions right now are making them seem more important, or this event or this thing I'm worried about seems to be more important. But in reality, man, life is, I'm breathing, I'm healthy. There's so many other things that I wouldn't want to happen to divert my attention to stuff that, quote unquote, really matters, right? Like that kind of thing I don't know. I never felt like that helps either. Oh, that doesn't really matter. It's like, well, if it didn't really matter, like, again, that'd be great if I could just flip the switch and, oh yeah, it doesn't matter anymore. But there must be some reason that matters to me right now. And, but what to do with that feeling is the key part, and how to, yeah, I do like the thought pattern thing too, of changing. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
I'm loving everything you're just saying. Also, Max, we've spoken about this before. It's like whenever we have these streams, it's like, yes, to share. And also because like it's the medicine we need. And I so needed this today. One thought I've really been playing with this past week has been just noticing how everything in life is a choice, and the choice of we get to choose for things to be easy or we get to choose for things to be hard. And realizing that a lot of times the hard stuff that we are choosing is like programming from years and years and generations and societal conditioning and all these other things. So giving grace on that sense, but also I've been getting really curious for myself where I'm like, am I choosing for this to be hard right now? Or like, is there an easier way to do this? Like, oh, this like bad feelings coming up again. Like, why is this here? Like, it's finally revealed itself for me time and time again. And now it's made itself conscious to me to be like, oh, this is a bad feeling and it's coming from X, Y, and Z. Can I choose for this to be easy? Like, how can I make this to be easier in my world? And I think that simple little curiosity that's been one thing that I've been really floating on in my space and noticing a lot of shifts that are happening to be like, yes, life is going to go on. Yes, there's going to be constantly dramas, but I get to choose what things I'm making hard, and I get to choose how I want to remember it. Do I want to remember it that it's going to be an easier way for me to work about this, or do I want to remember how hard and difficult and resistance filled this was?
I have to say real quick, one of the things, Whitney, I appreciate about you that I've heard you say over and over again in different ways and in different contexts is that curiosity piece. Like, I feel like you really have driven that idea home because, at least for me, right? Because I think that's so important, is the why, right? That wondering, that curiosity. Like, so many people have an issue with stopping and having that curiosity. It's like they're just on this track and it's all like full speed ahead, and it's really difficult for them to stop and take that moment to wonder, why is this happening? What is going on with this? What is the lesson here? So I want to say that I appreciate you using that in that context and using that term, especially the curiosity of it, because it's important for us to do that, to stop and wonder, what is actually going on here.
And when you're curious, I love that too. Yeah. I think when you're curious, you're able to stop, there's a concept of like feeding it, right? Like, whatever anxiety, I'm going to act on it, or I'm not, or I'm going to be worried about it or not. And it's like the more that is fed, the longer either stays around or grows, that sort of anxiety or whatever it is. Speaking, I guess, generally about it. But I think being curious, being aware, just being like, oh yeah, that does happen to me. Oh, that doesn't feel very good. Oh, I'm comfortable right now, or whatever it is. And then just being like, okay, I can decide what to do. Like, I don't need to, this thing doesn't need to control me, type of thing. And like, I don't need to control it either. I just need to, hey, there's that thing, maybe it'll lessen, or maybe it'll go away. Maybe we'll just learn to, it'll be okay, type of thing, instead of just always trying to control or fight it, or be like, oh, and this is happening to me again, or oh, like I wish, it's all these like states you get into, almost this, why me, fairness, all that stuff too, that I can relate to. But anyways, I think that piece is really powerful. Curiosity, awareness, all that.
I gotta slip out. Loved being here with you guys. Keep on holding the space down.
Thank you, Whitney. Great to see you. Yeah, we'll see you later.
Can I just add to this conversation? And I think like everything that you're talking about, all of you is like, so it's like the core of, yes, that's all perfect. It's also true. I really feel like I'm an expert in negative thinking. I'm an expert in it. And the allegory of Plato's cave, I find that to be like a very true concept. So even if you go back to being a child, wherever you're born, right? So if I'm born in Australia, then I'm going to learn English. If I'm born in Japan, I'm going to learn Japanese. So okay, that's what's going into my mind. It's like the Matrix, right? Whatever you're learning is what's coming out of your thoughts, what's coming out of your mind, what's coming out of your words, out of your actions. So these concepts is like, so going back to the just let it go, and then being aware of like, okay, what is the thought there that's blocking me from just letting it go? But if your program is so thickly negative, which is what mine was. There was no way out of it. It was really just like a prison. It was like, okay, I would wake up every day. I'm not going to be angry today. Today's the day. Today's the day I'm not going to be angry. I would still get angry. Or today's a day where I'm not going to have negative thoughts. But just that thought of like, I'm not going to have negative thoughts would bring on the negative thoughts. There was so much momentum in my mind for negativity. So there was no way to like unravel the negativity, because there was always another layer of like, oh, you can't do that, or you're going to go back to how you were yesterday. You've been like this for the last 30 years. There was always something behind it that was always stopping me from just letting it go, or just moving on, or just changing my thinking. It was so impossible. It was so entrenched. So I actually had to do the work to, again, like consciously unravel those things bit by bit and realize none of that is actually me. It's just the conditioning of the life. It's just the conditioning, and not even the conditioning of the life. It also was like, this is actually how I am from like my ancestors. Like it's in there, this level of judgment. It's like, okay, where's this jealousy coming from? That's not even, I've never felt jealousy in my life, but all of a sudden now I've got this extreme intensity of jealousy. Where did that come from? And so after I was able to do that, all the things of like, yes, the curiosity, the letting go, all that stuff is like perfect. The acceptance, I love that. That's the way to live. The gratitude, even the gratitude, like, man, I feel like maybe it's different. I think it's very different in America, because you guys have Thanksgiving Day. So it's really like, it's a part of your culture. In Australia, I didn't even know what gratitude meant. 5 years ago, I didn't even know what it meant. And I've been meditating for 10 years, and they always tell us, be grateful, be grateful. I'm like, for what? For what? Like, I'm a piece of shit. Life sucks. Like, I'm depressed. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be alive. What am I going to be grateful for? I can't be grateful for just being alive. I'd rather be dead, but I don't have the courage to kill myself. So how am I going to actually be grateful? But now that I've gotten rid of all that trash from my mind, like the gratitude, man, the gratitude is the secret sauce. The gratitude is like, I almost feel like a broken record, but actually fundamentally, because we're all one mind, the gratitude is like the glue that brings us all together. And when you're just grateful, when you have that positive mindset, the whole nature of reality around you changes, and it actually flows according to your mind, because it's all just the one mind, and we're all just expressions of that one mind. So it's like, yeah, I'm very big on this concept of like, especially if you're like I was, where there's always something holding you back, really learn the method to let it go from your mind. Get rid of that trash from your mind first, then all this stuff can actually naturally proliferate in your life. That's my perspective on it.
Wow. Yeah, that's it kind of reminds me too. Somebody asked earlier about, what's that have to do with crypto? And I was going to put, cue some questions about just, how, crypto, real life, whatever. I think, different anxieties come from different places and all that too. But I wanted to ask just what you made me think of here too, Stephen, of like, you talked about where it just made me think of the whole negative, positive and negatives and stuff, and the whole, I don't know, maybe I just watched a couple of your videos around like the connectedness and all that stuff too. But it made me think of PulseChain, and it made me think of like, I've avoided Twitter much more recently, not just because I'm busy, but because I'm like, there's just not a lot of good positivity. I can't find a lot of good positivity. It's like, you can only mute and block and do so much stuff. And it's like, it's, do you think that kind of like, is that that kind of negativity of feeding into everything, like the connectedness? Do you think the whole community is sort of like, man, we're just in this, there's plenty of positive people too, and definitely shout out to them, but the whole, like, not just a logically speaking of, okay, more negative stuff makes people less willing to create content because they're not getting the feedback loop, not just like the logical side, but the whole connectedness or spiritual side or otherwise. Do you think, had prices go up or whatever, do you think that would be feeding this kind of positive wheel of like everyone just kind of lifting everyone else up, not just with words, but just to, I don't know if you have a spiritual take on it either, but that kind of thing. Anyways, that's the sense that you were making me think of.
So I don't see how it's not related to crypto. I don't see how your mind is not related to every aspect of your life. You going to work every single day is your mind. You choosing to invest in cryptocurrency is your mind. So from that perspective, I don't see how, like I've even been criticized on my channel. I have a family friend who keeps like, meditation's got nothing to do with cryptocurrency. It's got nothing to do with investing. And I'm like, I fundamentally 100% disagree. Like my whole life has completely changed because my mind has changed. I was never able to even conceive of the idea of investing in the past because I was so negative. I was so I had no, my mind was so garbage. I couldn't even hold on to any money. It was so bad. So I don't see how they're disconnected. So from that perspective, it's like they're fundamentally one and the same thing. But even from the perspective that you're talking about, if you go back to what we were saying before, where I was saying being in an atmosphere of where everybody's meditating and having that vibration is not just localized. It's not just happening in that specific place. So even from what people would call a spiritual thing, I don't think it's a spiritual thing. Like literally everything is just energy and light. Like that's the universe. It's just emptiness and then there's energy. So everything is just energy. So if we keep putting out that negative energy, it vibrates through. And the positive, this is where the positivity and the gratitude comes into it. And everything, like if we keep focusing on the negativities, it's going to just keep rippling out there. Not even from like, oh, I've been on Twitter and I'm seeing that negativity, but even from the perspective of somebody else who's just getting into crypto and that negativity, they know nothing about Richard Hart, they know nothing about Twitter, but because that negativity is like in the ocean of the consciousness, their first thing that they're going to do is, oh, I'm going to Google Richard Hart, and then it's just all negative. For example, because the taint of the energy that they're coming into is already negative. So I'm really like trying to push this idea of positivity and gratitude, because fundamentally as well, the type of things that have happened to me while I've been in PulseChain and surrounding PulseChain, just by having a grateful mind, it's like when I talk about like reading the future, and I mean, even things like the Tangang and Atropa, they're two like opposing things, but they fundamentally come at it from very similar, like the thought waves that are happening from this group to this group, even if they're not consciously observing each other, is there. And so it's really like, I'm so big on the positive energy, because as we keep putting that out there, the next person that comes into crypto knows nothing about PulseChain, knows nothing about Richard Hart, just because of the fact that the energy is positive, they're not even going to be aware of it. Somehow, what they look up or what their first experience into it will be a positive one, because of the positivity that's resonating from this culture, because it's all just energy. And it's so obvious to me, but it's so like, oh, it's like woo woo. It's like quantum mechanics, but it's just so, it's so difficult to explain, because it's talking about the kind of ineffable that you can't see, but it's so logically obvious to me, and I get so frustrated that like it's very difficult to explain. But yeah, I'll stop there.
I got something I want to interject real quick. As someone who has spent their last few years doing that exactly, right? Spending my time on stream and, putting out content in the way that I do about positivity, right? About keeping your focus happy, and, mostly through the lens of Scivive, but more recently just about, my own life and my own experiences. I've got to say, Stephen, listening to you, I'm so grateful that you're here, because the way I'm positive and the life experiences that I've had and what I've gone through, I talk about this on my own streams. I already have a positive framing. I've already had a positive mindset. So to hear you talk about your struggle and what you've had to go through with having the opposite, that is so powerful. I think that there are so many people that are in the same headspace that you had been and that you had to come from in order to get where you're at now. And I honestly believe that you are going to cause ripples within this community and beyond, because that message needs to be heard. People need to know that they have the power to change their own mindsets, and that it has been done, and that people like you, you're a walking, talking example of how that's possible. So I just want to say thank you so much for doing what you're doing and bringing your content to this space, because I think it's monumental. I really do. And I think it's difficult, I think, especially for men, to be honest, to talk about this kind of stuff and to come forward and say, I've struggled with depression, I've struggled with anxiety. And you know what I've found, here's something that works for me. And hey, it may not work for everybody, but you know, at the very least, you're giving someone not just hope, but you know, some real life application that they can try to see if, hey, you know, maybe this will help. Because stress, I mean, you know, we talk about longevity and stress and anxiety. People don't realize how that's really the underlying number one killer of everyone, you know. And we are in a society, especially these days, that just is a breeding ground for that. So to pull yourself out of it and to rise above that, I think is just wonderful. So I just want to thank you for doing what you're doing and being here. And of course, Max as well, like, thank you for hosting this space and, you know, being a constant reminder of, you know, yes, like there's crypto and right, like we've got, you know, number go up and number go down, but what's going on in your heart and your mind, right? And I agree with you both. It is 100% connected, you know?
Yeah, just seconded. Yeah, I agree. Amazing. It's very inspirational, Stephen. I'm glad you're around as well. That's why, again, I wanted to have you on the stream. I'm like, I was watching your videos. I'm like, man, this guy's really interesting. He really has some like good, like even though I'm not interested in a lot of the, you know, the other coins and stuff you talk about, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm interested in like a lot of the content around mindfulness and all that stuff too. So it's amazing. Just want to say too, just on that, and yeah, thank you, SJ, for. Yeah, I mean, everyone around here who's still streaming or taking a break or whatever, like, I totally get it. It's one of those. It was so much easier when you have like this constant like not that I only started streaming a couple years ago, but before that, it was easier to promote and stuff because you got life-changing wealth, all this keeps happening. People are we had all this like price go up and like all this stuff that was easy or much easier at least to market, and now it's like, okay, price go down, price go sideways. Don't have expectations, all these different people with and the factions and the different groups and stuff in PulseChain, with their own stuff going on. It's almost one of those. That's what I really like to try to for us to get out of. It's just this, or I don't know, build a positivity army. Like, I don't know what it is. It's like, how can we still be, positive? People are struggling with this idea of how to still be positive and be motivated and create content, and not just like cope. Again, I think there's a difference between cope and hope, and a lot of people, I see them in the comments and otherwise, like, I think they get them confused, or they just have their own agenda or otherwise. But I think the ideal of being able to talk about positive things that are happening without always needing the price to go up, or somebody just got minted a millionaire again, let's go, like, without having all that stuff that has happened before, and we hope that much more will happen again, just to be happy to be around. I mean, honestly, like, there's so many things to be, again, gratitude, happy to just be around and participate, and not, I think that just gets diluted with the whole uncertainty, like, with, well, how do you know? What if it all goes to zero? Like, what if this is all just like, performance art piece, like all that stuff too. And I think a lot of that comes with, I don't want to like dive into like Richard and all that stuff too, and what you think of him and all that. I think we're all seem to be pretty positive on him and his mission and stuff like that based on our content and otherwise. But I think that's just really dilutes or like muddies the water, I guess, and just makes, I see all this potential and all these people that could be positively contributing, but it just gets like this. It's almost like, there's stuck. It's almost like stuck, or just like not aligned. The incentives aren't aligned or otherwise. And it sucks because we can't always have price go up. Like, I've said before, like, what motivates me more than anything is like mission driven. Talked about it a million times. And yeah, I believe I want price to go up. I've seen it happen before, all that stuff too. But when it's in the meantime, there's so many other things to do and contribute and be positive about, and everything else is just kind of noise. I've been treating it as noise. Like, I've literally been like, no, I don't want to be distracted. No, I don't care about the stuff. I've already heard all the arguments. I've already heard all the stuff. I cannot care about all this stuff. I really, again, just want to bring the positivity, not in a cope way, but in a like hopeful way, in a like, hey, here's the data, like here's what I believe, figure it out on your own. But like, I think that it's just been so much harder, I think, for everyone to do that, just because, you know, things are different. You know, not everything, but some things are different. So again, everyone out there who's you know on the fence on PulseChain or negative or angry or whatever, like hopefully this will I don't know. You guys want to tie mindfulness or meditation into this? Does that help with the crypto side of uncertainty?
So firstly, thank you, SJ, for those really kind words. That sort of stuff means the world to me, and also to yourself, Max. Like, I get those kind of comments a lot, and I definitely, absolutely appreciate it. There's even a science to there's giving gratitude, receiving gratitude, and witnessing gratitude. Out of those three, which one, just out of curiosity, do you think is the most powerful? Giving, receiving, and witnessing.
I feel like it's very fulfilling to give it, but witnessing it is pretty inspirational, and to receive it, I don't know, probably. I don't know. What do you think, SJ?
My gut instinct is to say giving, because I feel like it encompasses all three in a way.
Interesting.
Because it's like, as you give, you're receiving, you know, the gift of like having done that thing, and at the same time witnessing it.
Interesting. I also thought giving, but it's actually receiving. I was really quite surprised by that. But then at the same time, once I reflected on it, it's like, oh, okay, this really makes sense, because when you're receiving it, you're like, it's all just the one mind. So even that person that's giving it to you, by you receiving it, is also like emphasizing that energy. But in any case, I do really appreciate that. Thank you so much. So yes, there's a difference for me between, like, because I get those comments a lot as well. It's just cope, and I know the difference. I know the difference in my heart between me deluding myself into pretending like things aren't good, and just everything's going to be okay, and this kind of like false positivity that I'm putting out, and the actual positivity that I feel. And the reason why I am so positive and so like, it's just an inevitability, because when I'm the things that I'll be talking about a week ago, and like, oh, this is going, I really feel like this is what I need to, like, this is going to happen, and then a week later it will happen. Or like, oh, this is what we need to do, like me and my friends, we need to start taking this kind of an action, and then the blockchain, it's getting reflected in the blockchain back to me. So it's really like there's a harmony, there's a sync between what I'm thinking and how things are actually happening in the blockchain. So it's so hard to look at the prices and go, oh, well, this sucks, especially if you're just looking at like the core Richard Hart assets. It's very difficult. It's like everything's down. But again, I'm just like, then just look at it like you can buy more. Everyone's so stuck on the 10,000x that happened in HEX, which is an anomaly, by the way. It's an anomaly. The fact that we got a 10,000x, we're still, Frank Molina said the other day, we're still 100x from the bottom. Like, that's phenomenal. That's something that's like, it's still an anomaly, right? That we're still at a 100x. So yes, if you're looking at your things and you bought at prices and everything's down, I can see that. But yeah, it's actually really difficult to help people with that, because I understand that the condition of the what they think is reality is going to give them, it's reflecting back to them their mind, oh, price sucks, it's down, and then they see it, and the condition of the reality is telling them that, yeah, the price is down. But again, I choose not to even focus on that, and it's not a matter of cope. I choose just to keep maintaining that positivity, and there's going to be people that are like, oh, what's going on here? Why is he so positive? And then they'll also start to feel positive, like, okay, there is something. And again, as we continue that momentum, that ripple outward of positivity and gratitude, things are going to just continue to change for the better. We're still so early in the bull market. There's so many things that are happening on the blockchain that I'm seeing that I feel like a lot of other people aren't seeing. Like, there's really no need to, it's hard. It's almost just like in the same way where people would be like, oh, just let it go. I understand that that's an impossibility. If your mind is really absorbed in that negativity and the price, it's not easy just to go, oh, just let it go and don't worry about it. It's actually impossible. So I don't mean it from that perspective, and I hope it doesn't offend anyone. But I do know, like, spiritually, or whatever you want to call it, continuing the positivity and gratitude will make things happen in the way that we actually desire.
I like it. I like it. Before we get to questions, it sounds like SJ has got to run.
Yeah, I do. It's been a long day. It is about 11:30 p.m. here for me, and I'm gonna have to call it a night.
Awesome. Thank you for joining. It's always appreciate it. And yeah, till next time.
Yeah, for sure. If I hope someone needs to clip what Steven said, because there was like a moment there. I might have to go back and do it myself, but this stream is, I think, super powerful again, and I'm really grateful that we're in a community of people where this is not a total rarity. There's several of us within this community that are constantly talking about these kinds of things, and I'm hopeful that as we move forward and as things get better numerically or whatever, that we continue to grow as a group of, like you were saying, a positive army. Max, I love that visual. When you said that, I was like, I
want that.
I'm for it. Yeah, let's go. So
yeah,
thanks
awesome.
again. Appreciate you both. And I will definitely catch the rest of what is happening on this show on the replay.
We are not done yet. That's right.
Yeah, for sure. I'll talk to you guys later.
Okay, bye.
Good night.
Awesome. Yeah, I think just before we get to questions too, man, there's just it's a lot, and I get it. Sometimes I really like to just the hope versus cope real quick too. I don't like to. Again, I've never seen my content stuff. I've never been a cheerleader. I've never been. I never felt like I couldn't constructively criticize anything. PulseChain, Richard, whatever. I think I literally did a stream like. What did Richard Hart get wrong or something like that? Where I go through some of the interesting things where like, oh, okay, we'll see how this turns out. And I think that's just, I think it's hard to not see certain stuff as FUD or not see it as, again, it's just a reflection of the candle colors. It's like, I really like to talk objectively about a lot of stuff. Of course, show my, I have a bias, of course, too. But I really think, I don't want, I make my own content. Again, I do no monetization. I don't do sponsors, nothing like that. I really enjoy being able to talk about things the way I think about them at the time I'm thinking about them. Not that it won't change in the future. Not that, I won't have varying opinions or opinions different from other people, but just the ability to, speak freely and have conversations like this. And again, talk about like, a lot of people, prices down. Why doesn't it go up? I wish, Richard would have did this differently, or why is this happening? Or should I leave and go somewhere else? The gains are this whole, I think it just comes back to the candle color and the uncertainty and everyone's ability on the spectrum to handle it better or worse for whatever the situation is. So that's one thing I try to do is not take it personally. I try to avoid literally, like, I just don't, if I don't participate in the drama, I don't, the saying I used to say is like, if you participate in the drama, you're part of the drama. Like I try not to participate in a lot of stuff. I really just try to be like, hey, this is what, I just want to, talk about whatever I'm interested in. And it's not, there's going to be ups and downs. And that's, I don't know, I think hopefully in a few years or 6 months or whenever, we'll look back and be like, yeah, wow, look at that wild time. Look at all this stuff happened. Man, but we made it through. Like, isn't that amazing? Instead of just being like, it was so easy to get rich all the time. I was a millionaire and now I'm 100 millionaire. Like that kind of thing. It's, anyways, put that out there.
And it's not going to be easy, man. I think that's the whole point as well. Like that's actually how life works. I mean, even with HEX, there was so much fun at the start. Everyone looks at the result. Like, oh, Arnold Schwarzenegger's this huge guy, or, this actor, oh, he's a millionaire now, but they don't see like the years of hard work and the life of like abuse that might have happened to them before that. They don't see any of that. They just see the result. And it's the same as HEX. Like HEX had to fight through so much. Like that's what made the community so strong. It was literally HEX against the rest of crypto. And now it's like, yeah, Richard Hart against the government. So it's really like we're we're in that moment. And it's again, like energetically speaking, for me, it's just so clear how I see the world. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to, like, the problem is it was no expectations, but everybody had expectations because they thought it was going to do a 10,000x like what Hex did. That's been the number one big problem. So because they have those expectations and the reality is not matching those expectations, it causes a lot of negativity. So I think you're on the right wavelength, man. Like, don't even bother getting absorbed in it. Don't even pay it any mind, because you're just there's this negative energy, and just by watching it and seeing it and then contributing to it, it's getting bigger. So instead, let's put that negativity over here. Let's just get this, because positive energy is much stronger. So let's keep growing that positive energy, and eventually it's going to engulf that negative energy. Like even now, the thing with the Tang Gang, and they change the deck screener. Like, oh, what a dick move! What an absolute dick move! But I'm just like, man, what are you going to do about it? You can either complain about it, like there's a big uproar on Twitter, or you can just pay the money to change it, or just forget it. Who cares? Like, their arrogance will be their downfall as a community. I don't want that to be the case, but that's what it's going to look like. Like, their arrogance is so profoundly disgusting, but they just don't see that, and that's a big problem. So yeah, it's really just better to just keep focusing on the positive and the gratitude, because they're also doing good. That's the thing. So that's what I choose to focus on.
I was just thinking of affirmations for a minute, and I was like, I wonder if it's a wag me. We're all going to make an affirmation. That may be maybe either fun or useful in certain times too. Yeah, I've thankfully, like, people tell me about drama or this, that going on, like you just said too, and I didn't even see it. Like, I've literally been on Twitter twice today, and I didn't see anything. I'm like, oh, I must have I really curated my feed, didn't I? Like, not to be an echo chamber, but just to be a place where I don't need to see everything. I just don't need to. So it's amazing.
The algo will give you back what you're looking at as well. It's designed to do it.
That's right. That's an interesting point. Like, literally, I wonder if you click on posts or otherwise that are more, we always talk about the algo being a bad thing. It's like, I wonder if you can curate it where it's like, you know what, if I click on this, will it give me more of that stuff? Do I want more of that stuff? No, I won't click on it, and then it won't feed me more. That's a good point, Stephen.
100%, man. Like King Daniel, I love his posts. That's one of the first things I see in the morning. Every morning, Twitter gives me his post. It's a gratitude post, and it's like, fantastic. I've got this beautiful gratitude post. It sets the scene for my day on Twitter. And there's like an addictiveness to looking at the negativity. There's like this, it kind of draws you in. And I would do that, and I would notice, again, it would just keep giving me more of that content. So now, like, really consciously, just scroll right past it. Just ignore it. Just mute it. Like, really get rid of it, and just keep focusing on the positive content. If you want to be on Twitter, because it's good to be on Twitter to keep up to date with things, but I don't want to get sucked into the negativity. So really, that's actually how the algorithm works. It wants to keep you there. So whatever your attention is going on, it's going to give you more of that.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think. Well, I use Twitter. I use it for information. Like, I want to keep up to date on certain things I'm interested in and be able to talk about it and stuff here. And there's so many things where I'm like, nope, cannot care, don't want to care, don't want to be a part of this. Nope, don't. Like, just not engaging, I think has some merit too. But anyways, like 10 minutes left, and I want to get to a couple questions. I keep saying I'm going to get to questions, but we kept having such a good conversation. First question from Takshi Wildcard. When does it become observing instead of thinking? This was early in our conversation.
What do you think about that, Bob? Because for me, that's a loaded question.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting when you're meditating. It's kind of like, I mean, you have, you're thinking, you're having thoughts, but for me, it's kind of like, I think I treat it as observing, as letting the thoughts come to me, or kind of like just being aware, like, not how to say it. Yeah, it's hard to explain too. It's like, yeah, how do you witness a thought or observe a thought without thinking about that thought? I don't know. There's just some magic behind it where it's like when you can do it, it's kind of clear. But maybe it's like hard to get a start on that. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it is actually almost impossible to do that without a specific method that's designed to actually help you with that. So, because that's the core of any enlightened being. There's this super consciousness or God consciousness or whatever that's witnessing the thought. And when it's like, oh, I'm not that thought, and then it's like, oh, what thought? What was a thought that was thinking I'm not that thought? And then they'll have like this. Then you'll hear these experiences where they have this breakthrough, and it's like, oh, all of a sudden became one with God. And I've had those experiences several times in my life, and it's not something where it's just like, okay, just do A plus B and then you'll get C. It's not like that. It's for me it was like a serendipitous thing. It just kind of happened at 2 points in my life, and then after that, it's been through the practice of meditation, of continuously following the meditation method that I'm doing to really separate myself from those thoughts and really acknowledge, no, in my heart, those thoughts are not actually me. They're just a byproduct of the conditioning of life or environment or whatever. And that's where it gets a lot easier.
Yeah, it's interesting. Even I'm gonna have to think about that one a little bit later too. It's one of those things when I don't claim to be an expert or master or anything like that, but I feel like it is, and I think there's different spectrums, like deep meditation versus kind of just or not. Or I don't know. It's one of those things where I feel like you never really know. People are, the common question, how do you know you're meditating? How do you know you're not meditating or you are? And it's like, I don't know how to say it. It's kind of like, you ever sit there, I don't know, maybe when you were early doing it and you're like, shoot, am I actually meditating or not? Like, do you ever question it? Or is it kind of like you just, I know this feels, whatever I'm doing, it feels pretty good. Maybe I'll just keep doing that.
Definitely at the start, a lot at the start. It really took me probably 2 to 3 years to really like have a breakthrough with meditation where it's like, oh, I'm actually not those thoughts. That thought itself of, am I doing it right? Is this the right way to do it? How am I feeling now? That thought itself is just another layer of that conditioned self that in the moment, if you can just quickly get rid of it, again, you just keep removing the layers until you get to the core of who you are. So, but yeah, again, it's like going back to like, oh, just let it go. And then you've got this thought that comes in which prevents you from letting it go. But really, if you can just quickly get rid of those thoughts, that's the magic. But it's not easy. Yeah, it's not easy. Yeah, it's years of practice.
That's what reminds me of the observing part. It's kind of like when you don't identify as that thought, maybe that's like, that would be the definition of observing. When I don't identify as that thought, when I see the thought, but I don't, that isn't me. That's just a thought. That to me, that's how I think about observing.
Totally agreed. Yep.
The question here from iCreate: what are your thoughts on first identifying whether the anger is yours?
This is exactly how I felt, iCreate. This is exactly how I felt with my anger. It was so deep rooted. And when I mentioned the jealousy as well, the way that I understood the mind up until that point in life where I had my first jealous experience, because it's all the same, whatever the emotion is, where I had my first jealous experience, the intensity of that jealousy was so strong. I was like, where the F did this jealousy come from? I've never even experienced jealousy. But the way that I understood my mind up until that point with anger, it's like, well, okay, I keep getting more angry or I keep getting more depressed, because it was almost like, okay, another day of anger, another day of depression, another day of negativity. So each time that I would have that negativity or that anger, it would be more and more and more and more and more as life went on. I wasn't that angry when I was a child, but as I got older, it got more and more and more and more and more intense. And then when that jealousy came through, it was like, where did this jealousy come through? And that's where I really was, that was a period of my life where it was really like, there's something about the mind that I don't understand. And that's where it was like, it's really deep rooted. So we have, like, even now, man, the kids with anxiety in primary school, and everyone's like, oh, it's just phones and social media. That's part of it, but it's because the parents have so much anxiety and stress, and then they give it to their kids. It's because the parents have all that anger and resentment, and they give it to their kids. We don't just look like our parents, we also have their mind, and then their parents, and then their parents, and then their parents. So if you think about the history of humanity of, like, countries can just come and invade you and kill all your friends and your family and take your wife and rape her, and like that anger, like, oh, that helplessness, and that's passed into the kids. It's like the human history is not it's not a positive and happy, joyful thing. It's like it's killing and war and violence and rape and murder and hate and selfishness, and like the king can just be like, okay, off with his head, and you're just helpless. It's like, what? This one dude has all this power, and you're just like nothing. Like, this is human history, and it's all in our cells. It's all in our DNA. And you just look at the studies like epigenetics. That's a big thing. Like, trauma is passed down epigenetically. Like, I think they've really studied this in the context of like the Holocaust. And it's a if you just expand that concept out of the trauma, it's like it's the same principle, whether it's anger or whatever it is, negative thinking, overthinking. It's the same concept. It's in your cells.
I'm glad these days we have so many different tools to do. I think in the past too, it's kind of like, we had different, Stoic philosophies and different, different. I'm sure that, obviously I had meditation and East versus West type stuff too. But I think these days, I don't know, is that maybe that's a response, like the modern era. It's like do we just need that many more tools? Before, we didn't need it as much because, there wasn't this like 9 to 5, like need to go to work. Oh, boss sucks. Like, yeah, there was this, anxiety of like, oh, the king could just, do whatever he wants type of thing. But was it like, it almost feels like today, everything is pieced together in a way that, yeah, it's great for GDP. It's great for efficiency. It's great for progress and technology and all this stuff too. But at the cost of, anxiety, the cost of, talk about Instagram and body stuff and all that stuff too. And then, yeah, like you said, if that affects the parents, and it could be the kids and stuff too. Oh, some of the things that suck. I'm glad we have, again, good to have conversations about this, and good to just, again, shout out Sam Harris. I love the Waking Up app, and all the other people out there trying to provide information and just experiences, and you too, of just being like, hey, there are, here's how I dealt with this, or the information is available and the tools are available. So that's, I know there's a lot in that, but I'm trying to, we're almost out of time here. Real quick, one more question, Crypto Truth. Would y'all consider there to be different meditation methods? I'll just say I've only did, not that I've only did guided. I did it just meditation before too. I prefer guided just because I like the mindfulness and the little tips and like interesting things to think about. And I like some of the directed type of stuff. So that's why I like the app too. But yeah, what do you think? We'll wrap up on that. Different types of meditation methods that you've tried?
I've tried a few, and there's actually lots of different types of meditations, and I break them down into those two major categories that I was mentioning before. So there's like one of putting something into your mind. So someone, okay, then just calm down and relax and just breathe, and okay, that makes me feel calm, or like a sound thing which makes me feel calm. Or there's this other method of clearing your mind. They're the two like fundamental things. So you're looking at what's in your mind and you're getting rid of it, letting it go. I feel that, just logically speaking, they're both really good, but I feel the discarding is the one to start with, because if your mind is garbage like mine was, all that, okay, just feel really good, just let it go, it was just like it didn't work, or like some sort of sound thing, because my mind was too garbage. But now that I've cleared that garbage from my mind, this stuff works even more. So I've been able to go to those types of meditations, and I've tried them, and like, there was like, okay, just love and love. It was like, whoa, I just felt like really blissed out. And I know there's no way I would have been able to experience that with all that negativity in my mind. So yeah, there's lots of different types, but the two major categories is putting something into your mind and taking something out of your mind. And I start with the taking out of your mind, because then anything can go in there once the preconditioning is gone. Then you're really like a clean slate.
Wow, very interesting, man. Okay, good conversation. Again, I wish it could go longer. Yeah. I know you got a day ahead of you as well. Again, thanks for coming, and again, just the early day for you. Again, people, hopefully everyone watching appreciates the effort, not just putting all this stuff together, but also the guests who come at very, very early morning times to go out of their way just to talk about these kinds of things. So really appreciate it, man. Good to see you again.
Yeah, same, Max. And yeah, always happy to come on. Always, yeah. And you said it's always good for you to go on somebody else's show. So I'll definitely extend the offer to you as well, man. I do love this. I'm loving this new connection. So yeah, anytime in the future you want to connect again, let's do it, man.
Of course. Yeah. Like I said, let me know. I a little less flexible on stream times and stuff because things these days. But yeah, man, would love to come on if you don't mind early morning streams. It seems like that's a better way to do it for us to connect. But yeah, glad to hang out with you again. And where can people find more about your content?
Yeah, so very simply, so on Twitter, it's at CoexistSteven. And then if you just YouTube Coexistent Steven Genesis Mindset, I should pop up. Or if you just Google like what is a Tropa PulseChain, I should pop up straight away. Yeah, look for me on YouTube, and then I've got a website where I do blogs, and that's another thing that we could talk about sometime as well. The blogs, and that's something that I've been trying to do, like, yeah, scientifically, like mathematically, backlinking and creating that positivity to Richard's content. I really want to connect with your content a lot because you have that already there. But yeah, I've got a website. I talk about crypto and all sorts of things. So yeah, website, I'm on Instagram, TikTok, all those things. And I really just try and put positivity out there.
Just want to share your link real quick on, yeah, you did the blog, and yeah, it was backlinking to my blog. Again, I never know people actually read this stuff or not, but I like to use it as a long form way of expressing myself, getting either technical stuff or getting just like different thoughts about I used to write blog about Richard and Hex and all that stuff too. But dang, where is it? You tagged me. There we go. Got it.
I don't think a lot of people do read it, to be honest, but I think it's still good to be out there on the internet, because again, if you just Google Richard Hart, it's the first page is just like negative and SEC, and it's like that's not the Richard Hart that I know. So let's put the Richard Hart that I know out into the ether of the internet.
Exactly. Yeah. If nothing else, for SEO stuff or just getting more positive links, more people seeing that side of things, because there's a lot to discover outside of the top results on any search engine these days, especially when all the FUD we're dealing with. But yes, Positivity Army. Let's do it. All right, everyone. That's all we got for you today. Scivive and 5555. We are out.